Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with pro wrestlers about their lives as professional wrestlers and what they do outside the ring, helping others, doing works of community service, acts of community service, and charity work. And with me today, I have a three-time NWA national champion. He's worked with so many legends. He's worked with Buff Bagwell, Diamond Dallas Page, Jerry the King Lawler, to name a few, also Billy Gunn. And we're going to talk about his career as a wrestler and stuff that he's done out of the ring. It is my honor to welcome to the show, Greg Anthony. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm glad to be on.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
It is a pleasure. And, you know, so many people have been passionate about professional wrestling, especially since they were kids. Tell me about your early life. How did you get involved with wrestling? What made you want to start watching professional wrestling?
Like I tell everybody, my earliest memories of life are of professional wrestling. It's not, birthday cakes on a candle or a new bike or anything like that. It's actually sitting on my grandmother's knee watching professional wrestling. I have a very vivid memory of that when I was, a baby.
Wow.
Or roughly about a baby. But I mean, and sitting there watching the Crockett NWA stuff, which was Flair and Tully and all that kind of stuff, and Arn and Bobby Eaton, and it just one of those things that was always a part of my life, and it turns out like me and my grandmother are actually the only two wrestling fans in my family.
Okay.
So we always had that kind of connection that we were always, wanting to watch wrestling, or we were always wanting to see what was going on, things like that. And it just kind of, I would say, snowballed.
Yeah, so it's definitely like a passion, since childhood that you really were hooked onto. So where did you grow up?
So I was born in Centralia, Illinois, and my family lived in Salem, Illinois, which is not far away. And then we ended up moving to Tennessee when I was 6. So
Okay.
I consider myself a Tennessee boy. I've been down here, for 35 years. So Tennessee's my home, Dyersburg's my home. And, it was always, that's kind of weird that you say that. Cause so we were watching in Illinois, we got Crockett, we got WWF obviously, and we got World Class. So those were the three that I really knew, what I mean? And of course through magazines, you'd see other stuff, but you didn't really know what they were or what was going on.
Yeah. You
Didn't comprehend. But when I came down here, I'm flipping through channels on a Saturday morning when I was a kid, when I first got down here, and all of a sudden I see Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee on Memphis wrestling. And it was like, oh, what is this? Something new. So it was an eye-opening experience in itself.
Yeah, definitely. Like I can kind of relate to what you're saying. Like for myself, it was the WWE growing up. It was kind of all I knew. I kind of started watching probably around 4 or 5 years old. And so WCW was kind of on its last legs, and ECW was still kind of around, but it too was kind of on its way out as well. So WWE for so many years was like the only game in town. You had TNA and Ring of Honor and those promotions. So, but yeah, so once I started really learning about the history of the territories and, kind of where all your favorite wrestlers kind of got their start, it kind of really, renewed my interest kind of, after a while, but it's just amazing to see the history behind Memphis wrestling, and especially in the Tennessee wrestling territory in general, because there's just so much going on.
Yeah. I mean, Memphis, I love the fact that all those guys that I ever met that wrestled the territory days, they all have their opinion of what the greatest territory was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You ask Bill Dundee what the greatest territory was, he's going to say Memphis. You ask Matt Bourne what the greatest territory was, he's going to say Portland. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just whoever, it's amazing. And they all have a credible case,
Yeah.
for being the best territory. Memphis just holds a special place in my heart just because of the proximity.
Yeah.
I see the layers of generational what how it's impacted around here. Like if I meet someone, anybody, the first person they say usually is Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my hometown, Dyersburg, Herb Welch, who trained David Schultz and Coco Ware and a lot of guys like that. He actually lived out in Millsfield here in Dyersburg.
Yeah.
And so if I run into anybody over the age of 60, that's the first person they mention is Herb Welch. We actually end up naming our building after Herb. It's at the Herb Welch WrestlePlex
Mm-hmm.
because it's so synonymous with wrestling around here. So, yeah, the Memphis territory is always going to hold a special place. Like I said, just for the generational impact it's had
Mm-hmm.
from start to finish.
No doubt about that. So you kind of mentioned it earlier. You were watching a lot of WWF and NWA and the all the territories that were broadcasting at that time. So who were like some of the wrestlers that you loved growing up?
So it's kind of an odd thing. Like, obviously, when I was a kid, I loved all the baby faces and I hated all the heels.
Mm-hmm.
But for some inexplicable reason, I can look back on it now and say that I was drawn to those seamless Southern heels that I ended up emulating.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Bobby Eaton, Tully Blanchard, Ted DiBiase, Ric Flair, obviously. Just that. There's a lot of guys that fall into that category, but for some reason, that was the style that I really loved in the wrestler. Because I was, as a kid, yes, I liked Tom Zink, and I thought Arn Anderson was the evil bad guy. But at the same time, I would hear Tom Zink versus Arn Anderson. I go, oh, I know that's going to be a good match.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't put my finger on why I knew it was going to be a good match.
Yes.
But later I understood that it was Arn Anderson, stirring the drink. You know what I mean? So like it was that kind of stuff that just really, really excited me. And stuff like Bobby Eaton. I was a huge Bobby Eaton fan because everything that he did, even though he was a bad guy most of the time, everything that he did looked better than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
The way he took a hip toss, the way he took a post, the way he did certain things, he just did it better than everybody. You know what I mean? And even though he's a bad guy, even as a kid, I kind of realized, oh, wow. You know what I mean? Like it was a knee jerk reaction to the things he was doing.
It's funny because the older you get, the more you kind of appreciate those bad guys, those heels, because they were just so good in their role.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I broke in the business. When I broke in the business, I broke in backwards. Like you're supposed to break in, you're supposed to be a baby face first,
mm-hmm.
get your ass kicked, learn how to get your ass kicked, and then eventually you'll learn how to be a heel, and you're supposed to have heels to think. Well, all the group that I broke in with, I was kind of older and I was kind of the leader, so I was always the heel of this, of us that broke in. So I end up starting heel, So
mm-hmm.
I've been wrestling for, at one point I was heel for like 15 years.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So
wow.
like it was a huge thing for me. And then when I turned babyface, it was a scary thing. Like, do I even remember how to do this? You know what I mean? So
I've often kind of heard like from several wrestlers that it's easier to get somebody to hate you than it is to love you. So I can imagine it's kind of a struggle to get that good guy reaction from the fans.
It is and it isn't. There's an art to both sides of it. You know what I mean? Like you can be a great heel and get over any babyface. And at the same point, you can be a great babyface and get over any heel, if you know how to do it. It's just there's a fine line between it, and it's when you have a great heel and a great babyface at the same time, that's when that magic happens. So like it's I don't ever want to downplay the babyface side because it's a skill set of its own too.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Steamboat, Ricky Morton, guys like that, they were masters of being baby faces. You know what I mean? And to say that, their careers are less than because they weren't heel the majority of the time, I don't think it's fair. So
no.
I think it's both sides of the coin.
That's true. So for you, who do you feel like, what do you feel like portraying best? Do you prefer being a baby face or do you prefer being a heel?
Well, if you would have asked me that question 6 years ago, I would have said heel hands down. But like now, I've been hometown babyface, for the last 6 years. So like for me, it's equal now. I truly love being heel, and I truly love being babyface.
You got your start wrestling in April 2000, wrestling for the WWE Developmental Territory Memphis Championship Wrestling. We've talked about, Memphis was such a hotbed for professional wrestling. Tell me any fond memories that you have of working there?
Man, it was just a very unique deal. We were kids, and we were trying to break in the business, and we were kind of doing the same thing like the Hardy Boys did. You know what I mean? We had our own ring, and we were doing our own thing, and but we were still trying to break in to actual wrestling, and do stuff. And my buddy, Memphis Championship Wrestling, well, they were coming to our hometown once a month. And my buddy's dad was a police officer in our hometown. So he went up to the promoter, Terry Golden, and said, "Hey, can you help my son and his friends kind of break in the wrestling business?" So like the guy being the smart guy that he was, he's like, "Well, if I put they were drawing like 30 people. It was bad, what I mean?
Yeah.
But they had William Regal, and they had R-Truth, who was K Crush at the time. They had Reckless Youth. They had just this huge Daniel Bryan was there. I mean, there was just so much talent was there, you know what I mean? And they were drawing 30 people a time. And so he said, "Well, if I book these kids, maybe it'll help the house, that kind of thing." He didn't tell us that out loud, obviously, but that's kind of the thought process. So he books us in what he calls an intermission match, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that next show for the next month, we went around telling everybody, "Hey, we're professional wrestlers. We're going to get to wrestle. We're going to get to do this. We're going to do that." They end up having 200 people at that next show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. An intermission match was actually semi-main event. But he didn't let us, we weren't in the locker room with the rest of the guys. We had our own completely separate locker room. We were away from all the boys, that kind of thing. So he was still protecting the business in that sense. So it was a unique thing. I mean, William Regal actually, he understood that, we were kids and we were just taking whatever opportunity he could get. He didn't have any ill will towards us because, quote unquote, we weren't in the business yet. He actually came up to us and just gave us some advice, one of our first times. Reckless Youth was the only guy that actually came in. He was in their locker room and came all the way to our locker room and talked to us and said, "Hey man, keep your heads up, keep working," that kind of thing. He was the only one that came over and talked to us, which I've always respected.
It's very nice to get some praise and words of wisdom from people that have been in the business for so many years. I mean, William Regal, gosh, that's like the fountain of youth, asking for advice.
Well, I was, of course, I told you I loved, Ric Flair and guys like that. So when I was kicking out, I was doing that. Every kick out was that 2 3/4, just the shoulder up kick out that Flair used to do.
Yep.
And Regal came up and he's like, when you kick out, bloody kick out. And I was like, "Okay, I got you."
You kind of have to make it sort of realistic. Like if I'm in a fight and I don't want to be down for the count, I've got to get up so I can continue on.
Well, it's just everything's a progression. You know what I mean? Yeah. We learned that. There's a great match between William Regal and Fit Finlay from I think it's Germany. But they literally, it's like the first pinfall is not even a 1. It's like a half.
Huh.
You know what I mean? And then the next pinfall is 3/4. And then they get a 1. And then they get a 1 1/4. And then you see what I'm saying? And they just it progresses through that all through the match until they get to 3.
And those European crowds, man, they're really into it. They're really intense with how the pinfalls and submissions go. They're really into it.
Right.
Yeah. So you were there. How long were you with Memphis Wrestling?
Well, it wasn't long because, they lost a developmental deal not too long after that. It's 6 months, maybe something like that. But then we ended up catching on with a local promotion here and, finishing out our training and doing all that kind of stuff. And we started working every week from there on out. So,
okay. And I know that you later got to work with one of your idols, beautiful Bobby Eaton. I mean, tell me about teaming with him and memories of the Memphis or Midnight Gold, I guess I should say, the tag team that you guys were in.
Yeah. So Bobby was moving to Arkansas to kind of make his home base, Arkansas. And what he was going to do was he was going to start tagging with a kid from Arkansas, and he was going to start tagging with someone from Tennessee. I got pitched as the kid from Tennessee. So in the middle of all that, the kid from Arkansas they had picked, someone got in his ear. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but he decided against it. He didn't want to tag with Beautiful Bobby. So I spoke up. I was like, well, I'll do both. I can make Arkansas bookings just as easy as I can make Tennessee bookings. You know what I mean? And so we became Midnight Gold, and it was such a special time in my career because Bobby Eaton, he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time in ring, but he's an even better person. You know what I mean? And that's saying a lot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Before he passed away, his wife had passed away. And I called him when his wife had passed away and was going to, give my condolences and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to check on him, and all he wants to do is ask me about my wife and my kids and my company and how am I doing and stuff like that. That's just the kind of guy he was. He would give anyone the shirt off his back. He would help anybody. He loved everybody in professional wrestling, whether you were the main event guy, the first match guy, whether you were the ticket taker, the guy that swept the ring, concessions. He loved everybody. You know what I mean?
I kind of wanted to talk about the work that you've done outside of the ring. I think I saw on Facebook that you donated some money to St. Jude for something. Tell me about like some of the work you've done outside of the ring as far as like working with charities and community service.
We try to do as much as we can. We've held a couple of events called St. Jude Slamathons. You know what I mean? And basically what it was is I have a buddy here in town who's really big involved with St. Jude, and he would sell advance tickets to this event, and he would wrestle on it. You know what I mean? And we donated that money to St. Jude. We do think for every once in a while we'll donate money or do an event for the Community Cancer Fund here in Dyersburg, which is a really cool thing. I love it because what it does is it helps people with cancer within Dyersburg and Dyer County. So like if someone needs a ride to their appointment and doesn't have it, they'll pay for the Uber or something like that. Or if they're not able to work and their gas bills, due and they don't have the money, they'll pay the gas bill, just everyday things. But we know exactly where the money is. It's not like one of these big corporations where, you send the money in and you hope that it helps someone with cancer or something like that. We know it's going to someone in Dyer County to help something like that.
You seem very passionate about helping people, and that's something I definitely like about what you're doing.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is we all need help in some way, shape, or form. Like I had major heart surgery in 2017.
Ooh.
And like it was out of nowhere. It turned out that I was 35 years old and I was born with no right arteries, and we had no idea.
Oh, wow. That's very scary.
And I ended up having a 90% blockage in my widowmaker and 70% blockages elsewhere in my heart. And I was wrestling 30-minute main events every night. I was a breath away from a heart attack. And the only reason I'm here is because the good Lord kept me around here for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've always want to help people, we've done stuff with families that have lost, everything in fires. We've held events for them. We do stuff every Christmas where, there's a lot of kids that obviously aren't getting the kind of Christmases that other kids are getting, So I go around town and I ask for donations from local businesses, and they donate product. And then that Friday and Saturday on Christmas weekend, we do giveaways, that kind of thing. So, I mean, there's always something we can do, and there's always more we can do.
Definitely.
So we're always looking for opportunities to help people. Obviously the cancer stuff, I really would like to start my own heart foundation, kind of thing, kind of almost like Community Cancer Fund, but for heart patients, because obviously heart disease is the number one killer. And there's a lot of people within Dyer County that would benefit from something.
Definitely. So, what's next for you?
Next thing up is the Christmas stuff. So we're gonna be going around getting all kind of stuff like that. And we've given away bikes and toys and ratchet sets and just all kinds of stuff over the last 8 years. So we're looking forward to doing that. That's always a good time. Next year, like I said, I'm looking to maybe start the Dyer County Heart Foundation. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're just, I mean, we're looking to help the community and do as much as we can.
Sure. What's been the most memorable fundraiser that you've helped out with?
I would say probably, one of the St. Jude Slamathons. We had like Savio Vega, and we had a big tag match, and it was wall to wall. Like my building is it's smaller, but it's decent size. But like it
Sure.
was jam packed. It was
Yeah.
like wrapped all the way around. It was, and it was in the dead of summer, so it was
Oh,
miserably hot. But everyone was still in there, donating money, and I'm not sure how much we raised that night, but it was quite a bit.
oh man, that's crazy. So, why do you feel it's important to give back?
Well, because it's got to be something bigger than ourselves. One, but also because, like I'm not a millionaire, but we do pretty well, and we try to help out people that are doing a little less better than us. And if everybody does that, then everybody gets help. You know what I mean? I've had plenty of people help me. You know what I mean? Stuff that I needed help with or I couldn't do on my own, and they gave selflessly to help me, and I try to do that same thing.
As far as wrestling shows, what do you have going on? Where can people find you?
I mean, we wrestle every Friday night in Ripley, Tennessee at the Power Pro Arena, 207 South Washington, bell time 8 o'clock. And then every Saturday night, we're in Dyersburg, Tennessee at the Herb Welch WrestlePlex, 1827 St. John Avenue. Tickets are only $5 on general admission. Kids 5 and under are free. So I mean, we're always around. We put together between 125 and 150 events a year. We do spot.
That's
Yeah,
impressive.
we do spot shows. We do birthday parties for kids. We do. We did have a Memphis. We've done Mondays in Memphis and we've done Thursdays in Memphis on a weekly basis over the past year. We're kind of taking a break from it right now.
Okay.
But I mean, we're always looking to add a town and do more business and things like that. Cause my goal when we started this was I wanted to be like a legitimate territory where we were wrestling 5-6 nights a week. And that's still the goal,
Yeah.
and we've gotten up to 3 nights a week. So, on a weekly basis. So we'd like to get, 4 or 5,
Definitely. Well, I hope you reach that goal. And, I just want to say thank you for coming on my show. It means a lot. And I'd love to have you back on sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I love coming on and talking about professional wrestling and kind of, opening the doors a little bit to kind of so people understand it better,
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Greg. And we'll have you on again soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
God bless.
Take care. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.